Good morning, or afternoon, or whatever. This is Interesting to See, a daily sports podcast, news, narratives, takes, and gambling. No clip today. Couldn't find one I liked. I tried, but that's okay. It's Controversial Wednesday. We've got some other stuff to talk about as well. Thursday Night Football coming up tomorrow. We'll do bets and what have you. Unfortunate situation. The Giants are on Thursday Night Football, I think, against the Niners. And based on having the internet, I'm not 100% sure that the Giants are going to have a super duper fun, great time. Okay, let's start with, man, I don't know. Should we start with Controversial Wednesday? I suppose we could. Start with Controversial Wednesday. A couple interesting things to me, at least. We'll start with some stadium stuff. It appears very much like Tampa is going to get a new baseball stadium, which is a good thing. We've been talking about them moving. I would prefer the team moved. I think Charlotte and Nashville would be better for a professional baseball team. The stadium looks like this. If you're watching on YouTube, it's going to have windows. It's going to have a dome. It looks great. By building something like this, you could have some cool indoor events, and there's no reason for there to be a bunch of deck seating out here. This is way cooler. I love this design. Smaller is okay, especially for these stadiums. Smaller is just fine. Which is good for them. They're going to keep their ball club, and they deserve it. However, it looks like Jacksonville might not have the same vibe. In a recent poll conducted in Jacksonville among voters, only 6% of Jacksonville residents want to help pay $1 billion for the Jags Stadium. So we just saw this in Arizona with the Coyotes, depending on where you grew up, I guess, that these citizens are not wanting to do this anymore. They're not. 47% of the Jacksonville residents said they don't want to do it, even if it means losing the Jags to a different city. So this is a poll that was taken, I think, by some like local news organization or something. 51% of people said the city should sell the stadium to the team and let them pay for it. By your own. So this is Shad Khan, who owns like a bunch of Premier League stuff, and the stadium deals are how teams or towns lose teams. I don't know how big of a demand there is in Jacksonville for the team, but it's long been thought that, and the stadium is garbage. Look at it. It was an expansion team, I think, in 98, 7, 99, somewhere in there. They immediately went to the AFC Championship, and then they went back 20 years later. But it's not a good stadium. Every 20 or 30 years, you got to update stuff. You just got to do it. Jacksonville is the kind of place where having a Super Bowl would be kind of fun, and they haven't done it in a while, and the stadium is garbage, and blah, blah, blah. So they got to do it, but the Jacksonville residents don't want to pay for it in taxes, and part of the reason you move to Jacksonville in Florida is to not pay taxes. So we'll see. I don't know that it's the same thing as like the Buffalo Bills, where there's just a diehard fan base that they want to pay the tax to have the team there. They're fine with it. But getting these levies and things from local voters to do it is tough, and we'll see. I kind of got a feeling that they're not going to be in Jacksonville for that much longer. That's just kind of my gut feeling. This guy, Sergio Brown, this is on the statute of limitations of being an actual sports story, but I'm going to count it. Sergio Brown is a former football player for the Bills, Patriots, Colts, and some other teams. He played college at Notre Dame for like the end, I think it was like end of Quinn, early Clausen era. He's been declared missing, and it's not a situation where something bad could have happened to him. We don't think. These are just the facts, and what's kind of being insinuated will be obvious. He's been missing since Saturday after his mother was found dead in a creek. That death has been ruled a homicide. It's been ruled a homicide. Neighbors have ring or security camera footage of him taking out the trash and burning a bonfire, and apparently the bonfire included all of his mother's clothes. So it looks not great. Not going to say the M word here, but that's sort of what I think is being insinuated. So they're trying to track him down for that reason, which makes a ton of sense to me. Jeremiah Trotter, Jim Trotter, suing the National Football League for a number of things, incorrect firing. He alleged a bunch of racist stuff that had happened, including comments made by Jerry Jones. Jones responded to the comments and kept talking and stuff. I spent a lot of time talking. So this is what Jones has said. This is So part of the lawsuit is that these owners are keeping African American and minority people down in a lot of ways, including at the ownership level. So here's Jones' response. Quote, spent a lot of time talking to them, showing them and talking to them and how they could get in the NFL. Jones said, nobody got in on a wing and a prayer more than I did. I really couldn't afford it, but I got into it, and look, we'll see. And we do see the qualified potential buyers out here that can get involved, and that's one way. It's not the only way. Multiple ways to address inequity, multiple ways to do it, and I certainly think about one way is to try to work to get ownership improved in the minority area, and I'm all for it, and I do it. I work at it. So he is discounting some pretty racist-y things that Jeremiah Trotter insinuated or claimed that he said in an official lawsuit. So the NFL has also responded to this with Roger Goodell saying their allegations. Our job is to make sure they are factual. These are not new charges. They're actually a couple of years old. They've been looked into. You've heard the strong denials. There's litigation ongoing now. I think this Trotter lawsuit, I think that's one of those things where I think nothing will happen, but I think he's mostly right. It seems like some of the things he's alleging are a little intense, but I don't know. We believe the people that file the lawsuits on this podcast, at least for a little while. Michigan State has moved to fire their head coach, Mel Tucker, for cause. This happened on Monday. From the university, quote, the university has amassed a body of undisputed evidence of misconduct that warrants termination for cause, which is important because if you have to have an investigation to fire somebody with cause, because if you don't do it with cause, then he'll be owed, I would assume, somewhere in the neighborhood of $8 to $12 million. He took over, I feel like 2018, 2019, somewhere in there. And they still owe him a ton of money. And if you fire him without cause, just because you don't like him or whatever, you owe him all of it. And as a result of that, they have to make sure that, he actually violated something. Otherwise, and this is a publicly taxpayer-funded university. He gets paid by the taxpayers, among other revenue streams and whatever. But it's not so simple. You can't just be alleged of something and fire someone in a public situation because they could sue, and oftentimes in those lawsuits they win. The big news coming out of the NFL, there have been a number of fights. A fan was arrested for demolishing someone at a Steelers game, and then I think a Bengals fan headbutted a Ravens fan at like a Washington game or something, and then now the worst one, Dale Mooney, was like hit in the head. He was punched or something, and then he hit his head on the ground and lost consciousness. He was later pronounced dead. And I think that there are going to be charges. I'm kind of looking into what's happening. But these fights, we've been talking about it ever since the end of COVID. Like, it's getting worse, and it's not going to not get worse, I don't think. So the people are, it's bad. And it's gotten to the point where I'm not really interested in going to games. TV's so much better, parking and all that annoying stuff. And then you get into this, like, what if I want to cheer or whatever? And then people get mad, and it's always opposing fans, like you're fighting about the team. You paid all this money. This guy's a season ticket holder, so he's been there for a lot of games and a lot of moments for the Patriots and whatever. But I can't believe that this is happening. It's happening more often, and football is starting to feel like, we used to thumb our nose as Americans at Latin American soccer and European soccer, like the Mediterranean countries like Turkey and Greece and Italy for being crazy. Not so much now, and this is not a new story. People have been really permanently injured, brain injuries and stuff. My scariest stadiums, in my opinion, are not Philadelphia and Boston. They're San Francisco and L.A. You can look into that if you'd like. We do have some breaking news in her constant efforts to one-up famous people. Kim Kardashian apparently has been quietly hanging out with former star wide receiver just because of injuries, and it's been a long time. Former star wide receiver Odell Beckham Jr., according to multiple sources, trying to one-up Taylor Swift, who has been, quote, quietly hanging out with Travis Kelce. Whoa. How interesting. Of course, Odell is going to be out for a while. He's on my fantasy team, so I'm not. I wouldn't describe myself as super pumped about his injury situation. I wouldn't. Max, which used to be HBO, which we will continue to call HBO on this program, is signing up to do some sports. This is what they're going to do as an app to do streaming. It looks like they're going to try to do 65 NBA games, All-Star Weekend, playoffs inside the NBA, March Madness, 60 NHL games, Stanley Cup playoffs, MLB postseason, MLB regular season coverage, and more. It will be an add-on, and this has to do with rights and stuff. It's not going to be like you don't have to have Max, but if you have Max, you can watch a lot of stuff on the app, which is good. More stuff, more places, and then eventually we'll just bundle it all and charge $300 a month. That's where it's going. All right, Thursday Night Football coming up tomorrow.